Okay, Roman numeral 2 here. Let's talk about how we can get from tables, graphs, and standard form into slope-intercept form and point-slope form. Okay, so what you see here is you have the table, graph, and standard form in the middle here. And then I'm going to talk about how I could get each one of them into each one of the forms. Okay, so let's start with the table. Now, there's a couple different ways we can go here, a couple different paths. And I'll show you that maybe one path would be better for slope-intercept form and one path would be better for point-slope. Okay, so for instance, let's say we decide that we're going to take these three order pairs in the table and we want to take them and put them on the graph. Okay, so we're going to go down here and use some graph that's on our test or our paper. Let's plot these points. -1, 6 is here, 1, -2 is here, and 4, 4 is there. And then we can take our straight edge, connect those dots, and we got what that line looks like that goes through that table. Okay? Now, from the line, we can take a couple of very important information. One, we can take the slope, and second, we can take the y-intercept. Okay, let's find the slope first. Remember that the slope is your change in y over your change in x. So it's your rise over your run. So right here, as I go from one dot to the next, I'd have to go up 4. Then I'd have to run 2. That gives me a fraction of 4 over 2, which of course is just 2. So there's my m. Now my b is this value where it crosses the y-axis. It's this value right here, -4. So this comes back here. b equals -4. Okay, now from there, that gives me enough information to write my equation in slope-intercept form. That's y equals 2x minus 4. Okay? Let's say we decided, though, that we didn't want to go for the graph. Let's say that we wanted to use the slope, or use the table to find our slope. Okay? So let's say we choose the table. Okay? Well, to use the table, we're still looking for the change in y over change in x. Okay? We're looking to see how the y changes and then how the x changes. Well, from -6 to 2, that's a positive change of 4. Okay? From -1 to 1, that's a positive change of 2. You can see here that we're going to get the same ratio or same fraction as we did from the graph. So the slope should be the same. Makes sense. Okay, next, in order to go for point slope, all we need is just some point. Okay, so you can look at the table, you can see that there are 3 different points that they've given us. All 3 of them work. I'll choose the one in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to choose 1, -2, and I have a slope of 2. Okay, remember in your order pair, the first coordinate is x1, and the second value is y1. We're going to take these 3 numbers, 1, -2, and 2, and plug them in the correct spot in the point slope formula. We just got to remember that when we plug these x1 and y1 in, that their signs are going to change. Okay, so let's see what we got. When the -2 goes in, that's going to be a positive 2, so x plus 2. Our slope is 2. And then we're going to have, let's see, positive 1 inside the order pair, so it's going to be x minus 1 inside our formula. Okay, that'll work. Okay, let's go down and take a look at the graph. And let's say that we want to first write this in slope-intercept form. Okay, well, in order to do this, we need 2 things. We need the slope, and we need the y-intercept. Okay, we'll just pick any points on the line. This one, this one, this one. Any one of these guys would work. And go from one point to the other. Okay, so change in y over change in x. Let's see. Let's just say I choose this one. I go down 1. And then right 3, that gives me a fraction of -1/3. There's my slope. Okay, next, we have to look and see where that line crosses the y-axis. It crosses it right there at -2. Well, that tells me that my b is -2. Well, we have enough information now to write our equation. So you can see the graph is very helpful for slope-intercept form. Okay, on the other side, well, we still have to use our graph here to find the -1/3 for our slope. So we know we have that from before. Next, we just choose any point that's on that graph, any one of those green dots. It doesn't matter which one you choose. Let's just say we choose this one. That point is 3, -3. Okay, so just like above, we're going to have 2 values in here in the order pair, x1 and y1. And when we plug them into the formula, we're going to have to remember that we're going to change their signs. Okay, so let's see. Y1 is negative 3, so it's going to be x plus 3 in the formula. My slope is negative 1/3. And then I have a positive 3 for my x1 in the order pair, so it'll be an x minus 3 in the formula. There we go. All right, lastly, with standard form, okay, I want to get this guy in either y equals mx plus b form or point slope. Okay, well, once again, we have a couple of different pathways here. If we decide that we want to solve for y, well, then slope-intercept is probably what we're looking for. Okay, so let's remind ourselves how we do this again. We want to isolate the y or get the y by itself. So we start that by subtracting away the 4x. Notice that the 12 does not have an x, but the negative 4 does. So these are not like terms. So what we end up with here are two separate terms, negative 4x plus 12. Next, we divide away our 3 to get that y by itself. And you can see on this right side, we end up with two fractions, negative 4 over 3 and 12 over 3. In the first fraction, negative 4 divided by a positive 3 gives us a negative. And 4/3 can't be reduced, so we just leave it as negative 4/3 x. For the second fraction, we have positive over positive, so that's a plus. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And there's that equation in slope-intercept form. Okay? Let's say we don't want to solve for y, though. Let's say that we want to maybe use our intercepts. Okay? Maybe even use our cover-up method here. Well, if we're going to do that, that's going to have to lead us to the graph. Okay? So it'll look something like this. Okay? So let's see how we do. In order to find the x-intercept, remember if you're going to be on the x-axis, that means your y value has to be 0. So if we plug in 0 for y, we're effectively just covering up that term. If 4x equals 12, then that means that your x-intercept equals 3. All right, so go to your x-axis above up here in the graph and throw down a 3. All right, well, let's say we want to find our y-intercept. Well, that means that our x is going to be equal to 0. Okay, when we plug a 0 in for x, that gets rid of that term. You end up with 3y equals 12. Well, that means that y equals 4. So go to your y-axis, go up to the top here, bada bing. Now that gives you enough information to draw your line. Okay? From that line, you can get the information that you need. You can get a slope, and you can get some point on that line that will help you put it in point slope form. Let's do the slope first. Okay? Going from the blue dot to the red dot, I said I would go down 4 here. And then I would run or go across to the right 3. So negative 4 over positive 3. Well, looky there. That's the same slope that we found on the other side. Okay? Now we need to choose some point on that line. Because remember, our goal is point slope form. It doesn't matter which one you choose. Let's just say that I choose this one, 3, 0. I come over here. And recall that each one of these guys are going to be x1 and y1. When you plug those values into the formula, make sure that their signs are opposite, so both these guys are going to be subtracted. You end up with y minus 0 equals negative 4/3 times x minus 3. Okay? Now, these are not the only paths to these answers. There are other pathways, you guys, that we discussed in class and that other students prefer, but these will definitely work. Okay?